I think as a judge, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for personality. And I want to see fire. I want to see love for life, for music. Because life is hard enough. We need to every day find some kind of joy, some hope. And maybe for a moment when we make music, be very honest about what we feel.
Hey everybody, this is Chris from honestypill.com. You are listening to episode 46 of the Honesty Pill podcast, first episode of what I'm just going to call season 5. I'll be coming to you from Studio B here in lovely Pasadena for the next year or two while we rebuild our house in Altadena. I'll keep you posted on all of that craziness. So the focus of the podcast has gotten a little more specific. I'm going to be talking about practice, performance, and auditions, specifically about what's going on in between your ears, what's going on inside your practice room, and how all those things impact what happens when you walk out on stage. We're going to be talking to people who are absolutely killing it in this space, as well as getting you some actionable tools that you can actually try out and maybe move the needle 1 or 2% on your own goals. Sound good? If it does, take a moment to please hit like and subscribe right now to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. I have big plans for this channel, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. First, a quick shout out to the sponsors of the Honesty Pill podcast, Yamaha Corporation of America and HPAC. Yamaha brings world-class craftsmanship to musicians at every level, from beginners all the way up to marquee players in symphony orchestras around the world, and they've been a huge part in making this podcast possible. And HPAC. So what is HPAC? The Honesty Pill Accelerator community just launched. It's honestly one of my favorite things to come out of my career as a music coach. It's an incredible group of people who are sharing the same passion, deal with the same challenge, and actually get what you're going through. If you've ever wanted a supportive, powerful community of musicians who are serious about growth, head over to honestypill.com/accelerator community to find out more. All right, let's get into our conversation. If you've ever wondered if classical music has a future, spoiler alert, it does. And my guest today is a big reason why. She's a conductor and pianist who has worked with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the Boston Symphony, everywhere in between and abroad, and is currently Kapellmeister at the Deutsche Opera Berlin, one of the great opera houses of the world. She's also the incoming music director of the BBC Ulster Orchestra, a position she'll begin this fall, all while being one of the youngest conductors doing it at this level anywhere in the world. She's passionate about technology, about young people, about breaking down the walls of what classical concerts can be, and she hasn't even turned 30 yet. Welcome to the podcast, Anna Handler.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I've been following your podcast and also your Instagram page, Honesty Pill, and I really love it. I think it gives very valuable insight, as you say, into the reality of this business and very applicable tools for young musicians. So thank you for doing that.
We're going to have a lot to talk about today because I'm so inspired by you on the podium and also what you do off the podium, which we'll get around to in just a second. So you were born in France, raised in Munich, is that correct? And trained everywhere. So where is home for you now?
You start with the most difficult question. Well, also important to mention is that my mother is from Colombia, from Manizales, near Medellin. So I speak Spanish with my mom, and that's a huge influence for me in my heart and in my lifestyle and my mentality too. I was born in France because my parents were both engineers, worked there for a while for Texas Instruments. But my sister was already born in Munich. So that's the city that raised me and gave me opportunities. I went to a very good high school there, public high school, but that really helped me with my musical development. And now I'm living in Berlin when I'm there. So when I work for Deutsche Opera Berlin, I'm in Berlin. But when I'm not in Berlin, I'm in Boston or somewhere else. And I'm starting to make friends everywhere, and I leave
awesome.
A little bit of my heart everywhere, and I keep in touch with my friends and my family. So I think my heart my home is where my heart is, I think, and so I try to not tie it to one specific place, but rather than sometimes going back to a place in my head or in my heart when I want to feel a certain emotion. So yeah, but I feel very glad to have this nomadic lifestyle right now.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, because I think for some people it would seem like an absolute grind living out of a suitcase and just being in a different time zone every other week. But I'm sure there's some super positives about that too.
Yeah, it's not every other week. I mean, there are more intense periods, but there are also stable periods where I'm for 2 months in the same place, and I have a very, I would say, normal work schedule from like 10 to 8 or 10 to 10. It depends, of course, but as musicians, I mean, we know that. I think right now I feel a little bit like a bee. I'm collecting knowledge, and so I'm so grateful that I get to collect knowledge in very rich places, rich in values and in knowledge. It was Juilliard or Berlin or LA, Boston. So I try to study the musicians, the people backstage, people in the administration. So try to see how a healthy organization actually operates. And now that I start in Belfast in a very responsible role, I try to apply all this knowledge that I gained.
Well, on the flip side too, you know what happens to a pasture when no bees show up? They don't thrive. So we, I mean, I can speak firsthand as an LA film musician. I love when you come and conduct, and we get the opportunity to see different faces on the podium all the time too. So I think it's a reciprocal thing. So you said your parents were both engineers. You mentioned Texas Instruments, and they were kind of obsessed with math and not musicians at all. So how did you and your sister Laura like end up in music? How did that occur?
I think destiny, or yeah, definitely a divine intervention, one could say. I'm very, very grateful that it happened, but it was definitely not planned. A big coincidence, and my parents always wanted us to be happy, both my sister and me. My mother, coming from a quite musical family in Colombia, my grandmother loved playing the piano at an amateur level, but she played some even Beethoven sonatas, Moonlight Sonata. I remember her playing that. So she took lessons. My mother, unfortunately, doesn't play the piano, but she plays a bit of guitar. My father plays a bit of trumpet. Um,
Hmm.
we actually loved singing and acting and dancing as children. So they brought us to afternoon classes in our suburbs. And it turned out that one of our voice teachers or choir teachers said to us, you should apply to this regional competition, which was something like the Voice Kids for Bavarian children. And we won that. So that was a very beautiful mix of tradition and musical and voice education. So we got to be in the annual Christmas show in Germany on television in Bavarian dresses that you know from Oktoberfest.
Do we have a photo?
Very. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will send you. I will.
Okay.
Insert.
What do your parents
Yeah,
think about your concerts now? Do they come to your shows?
they try to come. They will come to LA now in March. Yes, it's the first time my father will see me with the LA Phil, and my mother had seen me during the family concerts 2 years ago. I think I think for them it's very surreal when they saw me now in the opera pit in Berlin. I think they were like, "Wow, this well, this is what you do," because piano is very, I mean, easier to understand. But conducting is such a mystery in terms of what do we actually do? What does this gesture symbolize to so many people? And how does this magical connection work? Yeah, but actually, so we started singing, and then I started playing the piano. I also played a bit of violin and viola, but my sister was so good doing that that I stick to the piano. And we do chamber music still, and we still sing together from time to time. So I stopped singing a little bit, but now that I do more opera, I see how important it is that I also know how to pronounce the text
Hmm.
and know where the phrase goes. things like that.
Got your fluency in different languages is astounding, and we're going to talk about that too. So the pressure's on because your father is going to see you conduct the LA Phil for the first time in a few weeks, and I'll be playing. So now I feel some pressure because Dad's going to be on. All right, Papa Handler, I'll do my best. Okay. So what was the transition between piano and conducting? What made you pick up the baton for the first time?
I mean, in the video that you just saw, you can see that I used my hands as a child quite actively to show crescendos. It was very intuitive, but I think touching the sound with my hands or the energy in front of me was something that I did quite intuitively. So gestural expression always seemed, very close to who I am, So there are also videos of me when I conducted my school class in a choir. So I would be like, okay, let's do this canon, and you start. So it was also very intuitive, I think. And then with 15, I had the first chance to actually conduct a group. My high school violin teacher at that time, he saw something in me that I, at that point, could not, I think, understand. It was interesting because he said to me, "Do you know Bernstein's Young People's Concerts?" I said, "No." So I went home and I watched the YouTube videos, read the book, and I still didn't really understand it. I mean, now I am rereading. so good. In any case, he also then said to me, maybe try to read these chorals in old clefs. So he introduced me to transposing instruments, and then said, can you arrange this? So he kept giving me little crumbs to to see if I would like this kind of thing. Also, how do I organize concerts on my own for my community? What do I have to think about when I sell tickets? Or the logistics of planning a concert and so on. And then we conducted ourselves. So we formed a choir and an orchestra. So all of these 20 people who were, I would say, scholarship holders of this. And I was 15. I was wearing braces, glasses.
Nice.
I was, I don't know, I could feel that I was really drawn to all of this. Like there was so much curiosity for all of this. But I didn't know at that time if what I felt when I moved my hands would translate into something people would like to feel too. Yeah, and then I asked my school if I could keep conducting some things, and I think that was not so easy because everybody wants to conduct, also from the teachers and so on, and they helped me, but I felt if I want to understand this more, I need to become very active and do it myself. So I founded an orchestra, and that is like founding a company, right? Like you need to think, okay, what kind of value can I give the people who should join this cause, right? It's like kind of like social entrepreneurship. So I first wrote emails to 50 young people my age. I was in 11th grade at school, and then I said, okay, if you join me, then you can play a solo concerto, a violin concerto or trumpet concerto or piano concerto, and I find us places to perform. So in elementary schools, refugee camps, old people's home. So everybody of these children would pay 1 or 2 euros, and from this money, then I could pay the musicians. But for me, it was just wonderful because I learned so much about how to motivate people. And my sister was the concert master from the very beginning, so I had big support from her.
So when you were in 11th grade, you were founding an orchestra, and I was making sandwiches at a deli job next to a train station. So yeah, we have almost the identical upbringing. That's incredible. You touched on so many great things. I'm going to just dip into one thing, which is understanding community building through music. Talk about that a little bit. What does that mean for you? And I want to talk a little bit about this in context of today. modern orchestras, how are we impacting our community? How can we do it better? And what's sort of the bridge? What's the purpose as far as you see it?
Well, what does it mean to me? Social work, it means everything to me. I think I always saw music as a tool to unite and to bring people closer to each other, to equip them with a feeling of self respect, self love, higher self esteem. And I think all what we can help people to do is also listen to each other, listen to their own emotions. When they come to a concert, they have this sacred space where they can really feel and allow themselves to feel something. This cannot be only about winning an award or playing the best scale or, making the best new record or winning a Grammy or becoming famous. This has to be about something bigger. It has to have a meaning that is bigger than myself. Yeah, I'm very aware that I was extremely lucky also to be born into a family who always supported my dreams, that I am healthy, that that I got so much support throughout this whole time. So I try to give back.
Excellent answer. That's so inspiring. So this so much, and it is in alignment with what inspires me as well, because at LA Phil, we'll play a beautiful Brahms symphony or a premiere of something by John Adams, and it's wonderful. And it's at the highest level, and people seem to appreciate it. But when I feel most inspired, connected, and relevant is when we do some of these crazy projects like we just did this week with Egmont, where the text, the Goethe text, has been transposed into modern, somewhat modern context, and we're talking about Minneapolis and riots and protests and government. And you could have heard a pin drop in the concert hall when Kate Blanchett was delivering Egmont's message, and how it's from, he was born in 15th century, I think, Egmont, and now here in 2026, every word is absolutely relevant, and every note that Beethoven wrote to support the message is just so, it belongs to everyone.
Yes.
And I think that I want to talk later about the future of our art form, but I want to stay on this topic of community for just a moment, which is how first of all, how do we define who our community is? Who is classical music for?
We always have to fight for making people feel included, not tested, for sure, right? Like when they go into a concert hall, they need to feel that, okay, there's no test. You don't need to have any knowledge to come here. The only thing that helps with classical music maybe is, I would say, it can help when you have listened to something before and you listen to it for the second time. It's like a blurry picture that becomes sharp when you know a little bit more about it. And this sharpness helps you to have a more refined and therefore maybe more intense experience. But I believe that there is a beauty in just sitting in a concert hall and listening to what is happening, observing the musicians, observing their passion, observing how they move, how the conductor moves, and how they leave their heart on the stage. Also, there's a mystery that's also sometimes there's also a beauty in this mystery, in this enigma, right? That can be decoded, but does it have to be decoded to be felt? Big question. I think when I play a note on a piano here, makes no difference if I play it here or if I play it in India, right? Or if someone in India plays it. This is the beauty of notation. You don't need to speak the language. You hear it, and it's everywhere in the world. It's the same. So if we think about listening to sound in general, what is sound? It's a wave. It's air that vibrates. What does it mean? What do you think? I mean, you have been on this planet a little bit longer than me. Why why
A
do
little bit.
you think? uh, why do you?
Well, here's one of my major things I like to argue with people about, and this is a misnomer, and I used it just now myself, and I cringed when I did, calling it classical music. It always kind of drives me crazy to hear that phrase, because we do play some classical music, and we play some Baroque music, and we play neoclassical and romantic and avant-garde, minimalist and pop, rock, jazz. It's weirdly narrow view to call this entire orchestral art form, or even frankly orchestral, because sometimes it's not even orchestral necessarily.
Yeah.
Look at Walt Disney Concert Hall. It is not a classical building, but the music we play inside, we call it classical. So I'm always wondering about this barrier that it's a self-imposed barrier against people understanding what it is. When you were talking about active and passive listening, I love this topic. I thought about wine tasting in that, it helps to know, like, if you're drinking a Pinot Noir or Petit Syrah, what does that mean, and where does it come from, and what does the earth do, and the sunshine, and that's all fascinating context, and I think it can help you see the picture with a little more clarity. But on the other hand, you can just drink a glass of wine and watch a football game and not worry about it. And that's is one person enjoying the wine better than the other, or has more right to it? It's not at all. It's ridiculous. But there are wine snobs just as there are classical music snobs. So the point of sound is connection to me. That is the ultimate point of art in general, but particularly sound, and the fact that it elevates past language is the whole point of this.
Yeah, it becomes something connected to a higher purpose. Yeah. I mean, if you think about why do we make sound? Because we have to communicate. Like, that's also a connection, because you talk to someone, birds talk to each other, whales make sounds, to communicate something. It's but probably the first sound is our heartbeat, like this pulse that we have in a steady rhythm, something cyclical. It's Also, I mean, one could talk a lot about what is sound, what is noise. So these are also interesting questions. But I love that you just said that this is a self-imposed barrier. And I think the LA Phil is really leading the way for classical music in many, many ways, because you play so many interesting projects. Alone in the last weeks, every time I look what you're doing, I mean, it's so forward thinking, inviting the artists of today, making things that are relevant today. And when I think of Beethoven was such a figure, an important figure that we can look up today too. He, for example, said, "Don't ever let the circumstances define you. Define the circumstances." So, and when he was around my age, he started losing his hearing. Wrote his testament with 31, very young, and asked his brothers not to reveal that he had this deficiency, because he still wanted to keep composing. But I think he really never stopped fighting for the things he believed in, and he used music as his way of communicating. And this is so wonderful that you're playing Beethoven right now. What's the next thing you're playing?
More Beethoven. We have 4 weeks of Beethoven, and I'm here for it. Beethoven 6, Beethoven 7, Missa Solemnis, and the Egmont. So it's a wonderful. I actually do, one of the things I love about LA Phil is, and the conductors that come and go, is everyone's bringing different repertoire. We're sort of heading in all these different directions, it's nice to sort of stay in one place for 4 weeks, not 4 weeks,
Yeah,
maybe it is 4 weeks, and
go
really
deep.
settle in. And there's a lot the orchestra can learn a lot. You spend a huge amount of time on long-term youth projects. Speaking of
Mm.
the future of orchestral music, why is that? Why is connecting with youth so important to you?
I think I know how important it was for me as a young person to feel included and to have access. So for me, my high school, but also the Bavarian State Opera was a very, very important um, door opener. I think that I felt okay, even as a 15, 16, 17-year-old person, I can, be part of an art project. I can leave my emotions on the stage. It was a wonderful outlet. So I also feel that the younger I am, the closer I am to this age group. So right
Mm.
now with 29, I can probably understand a 19-year-old or a 20, 21-year-old very well because I remember how that felt. And also young.
How are you with 13 and 15-year-olds? Because I don't understand my kids at all. Can you help me out? They're in the next room.
No, I mean, it's no, I don't know. I feel like when I am with young people, I always, after the rehearsals, I sit with them and I ask them how they're doing, how do they see the politics of today, what are they learning in school. I'm really curious about how are they learning about history right now.
Mm.
Every day history is being made right now. So what are they learning about this? How are they perceiving the world? What helps them cope with things that they are experiencing? Do they feel that they have any agency, or do they feel completely left out? Can music be a form of protest or a form of peace? Can music be unifying? I think it's so important to help them find direction, meaning, and mission. I think it is. We, as people who make music, made our passion to our profession. We felt a mission, and we are so lucky that we get to live every day what we cannot live without. And reminding young people that it is actually possible to make your dreams come true, and that you don't need to sit in an office from 9 to 5. If you want that, that's great too. But you can actually be brave and you can try and go for your goals. And if you fail, okay, you fail. And then no matter, you stand up and you continue, right? It's not about the succeeding or the failing or so on, but it's about the trying and trying to dream, not never stop to dream. I think that's the most important thing. And I, now that I read more about manifestation, visualization, such an incredible tool. I didn't know about that, but I think kind of intuitively did it. That you see something, and I was always so curious. I thought like, oh my, I'm here in Germany, but there's this whole planet, and thankfully, I mean, my mother coming from Colombia, so I had access to this continent in a bit in a way, and now with the US. And so in music, when you do music or when you do sports and you go and you compete somewhere, you see people coming from all different parts of the world, which is great. So, but to answer your question again, why do I love working with young people? Because I see a fire, and I see purity in many cases. And I see, when you are in love for the first time, right? Or when you experience something for the first time, and being there for this, I mean, it's just wonderful. So yeah, but maybe also just showing, hey, if I could do it, you could do it, right? Like my path was not pre-designed for me. My parents just said, okay, follow your heart, try to do this and see where it leads you. And if I'm passionate about this, if I work hard, it will lead me somewhere good. Having this faith in no matter where, it will be good and it will have a purpose. And
I think we should teach manifestation lessons in school.
in high school, yeah.
In addition to, wood shop and, Spanish, you should also learn about manifestation, because I'm really very much steeped in this right now when I'm coaching people in Audition Accelerator, is the mindset component of auditioning. And you get what you think about, whether you wanted it or not. And that
be
is
very intentional about your thoughts. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, but I mean, yeah, no, we can talk a little bit more about this, because I when I first read about it, I thought, this is maybe, I don't know if it works, but I think for me, when it clicked, was one thing, and I know you know about this. That's something that you want, whatever it is. If I'm, let's say, winning a competition, audition, or a position, or having, the home of your dreams, or whatever this is, that you already live as if you had it already. And that is so powerful, because you start thinking, okay, if I had already won this audition, how would I now walk through this room? How would I walk on this stage? I wouldn't show up to prove myself, or to impress. Maybe I would show up to express, right? I don't have to prove my worth to anybody. I already won this position. I'm part of the group. I can just show how much I love this excerpt, how much I love this music, and who I am, and how my personality comes across, And so I think that's so beautiful, because then people feel, this person is actually really relaxed, and he's not afraid. And so, I mean, or what do you think?
I think that I saw a meme recently on Instagram that really nailed what you just said. And it showed a picture of some, I don't know, Renaissance painting of a prince or someone drifting off to sleep in bed. And it said, think about this. If you want to go to sleep, the first thing you have to do is climb into bed and pretend to be asleep. Everything in life kind of works like that.
Yeah.
Think about it. When you go to sleep, what do? You get in bed and you pull the covers up and you snuggle down, and you're like, you're not asleep, but you're pretending to be asleep, and then you become asleep. So this whole idea of like dress for the job you want kind of thing is it's to quote Jen Sincero, this shit works. It actually is a thing. And I put it this way: if you don't believe in this, and it's fine, you don't have to believe in it, but if you don't, if your alternative is to marinate and overthink in the positive, Buddha says overthink. If you're going to overthink, at least overthink something positive. Or if your option is to ruminate on something negative, I know which choice I'm going to make, because at least the overthinking the positive is a lot more fun and more pleasant. So have you, other than conducting, have you taken an audition like as a pianist, or it must be for competitions and things, where you were sort of on the other side of the screen as a candidate, sort of?
You mean where I was being judged?
Yeah.
Oh, I think many times. I mean, in piano competitions, entrance examinations. I mean, honestly, every time you step in front of a new group, or a group that you already know, you're also in a way being judged. As a conductor, guest conductor or not, you're also, there are these forums where people say, like, do we want this person to be back and not? And so, I mean, maybe we cannot say judged, but you're definitely observed, and you are, perceived. And sometimes it's like, people put their attention on not only your knowledge or what you say, but also they look, okay, what does this person radiate? Like the voice. the aura, the personality, the character, all of these things also play a big role in the subconsciousness. Yeah, so I think every day we go through this. Sometimes we we are more aware of it, and sometimes less aware of it. But what do you mean? Like, how did I feel when I
Well,
was?
I was going to ask you how walking on the podium, maybe for the first time, when like you made your BSO debut at some point,
Yeah.
did that feel like an audition for you in some ways? Because yeah, the players are
Mm.
instantly judging, judging or
Yeah.
assessing, whatever words you want to use. And I do recall, I was fortunate enough to work with Seiji Ozawa when I was in Boston a few times.
Mhm.
And I remember from the stage door to the podium, there was a palpable energy shift in the room and an aura that was like radiating off of him. I was like, whoa, look at this big energy coming in here. And it's magic. And then there are
Yeah.
other times conductors will come in and it's just sort of like business as
Mhm.
usual. And those are they're different approaches and they're both effective, I think. But there is sometimes this magic. I'm going to tell you this story just to anyone listening, because I think this is kind of one of the most amazing things that I've experienced with you on the podium. Was probably the first concert that I can recall where it was a youth concert. We were doing Tchaikovsky Swan Lake or something. I can't remember. And there was just such an energy and a connection and a flow with not only the orchestra and the podium with you, but with everybody in Walt Disney Concert Hall. And at a certain point, unscripted and totally spontaneous, you spun around and started to invite the audience to clap along with us,
Yeah.
which by the way, you know as well as I do, that can be disastrous, right? Because sometimes audiences can't keep the beat, and then this is like this weird schism. And I have to say, not only did you keep the entire orchestra hall full of children completely synced in time, but then not only did you cut them off and they stopped instantly right at the right spot, but the radiation of joy in the building was epic. And this is rare air right here. And this is what I'm talking about when we talk about this community. And if you're taking auditions, your job, hard as it may be, is to step onto the stage behind that screen and create that energy all by yourself, playing an excerpt from a Strauss tone poem or something. And I feel like
Right.
that is what it's all about.
Yeah, we want to feel something. I think as a judge, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for personality. And I want to see fire. I want to see love for life, for music, because life is hard enough. We need to every day find some kind of joy, some hope, and maybe for a moment when we make music, be very honest about what we feel. It's you can be sad, of course, when there's an excerpt from a Mahler symphony or from a Shostakovich symphony. Of course, you don't need to change what you feel, but be vulnerable and courageous enough to connect with a very honest feeling inside yourself and let that out. And that's also what I try to do when I conduct. I try to open my heart so that maybe people in the orchestra and the audience also will open their heart. Yeah, this is all, and then there will be a connection, and the connection will be maybe through the soul, or just a little moment when I look into your eyes when you play, and you know what I mean. It's like either like you got this, like sing, just sing, just do, or I can be like, let me guide you, let me guide you because I'm hearing something here. There's some energy wants to move a little quicker, so let's go, and then so I'm kind of like a coach trying to be like helping this energy go through the orchestra and then through the room. So it's a very, very spiritual profession. The last thing that I want to say is that I think that I'm very, very thankful to think of conducting in a way that it protects me. So it's less about, okay, what do they think about Anna, but it's like more about, okay, I become this medium, and so that maybe that also helps in auditions, when you think they're not judging me, they're judging, can they forget about this person playing right now, and can they just follow the music, you know, and just maybe forget for a moment about their own problems and be like, wow, wow, I've never seen the world like this. I've never heard this excerpt like this.
I've definitely been on committees where I've thought, wow, I've never heard this excerpt like this, but it wasn't in a good way.
This is funny.
What do you think just one more question about auditions. What do you think the biggest consistent error musicians make when they're taking or preparing for auditions? What is like the major thing that they need to let go of or stop doing?
Again, don't think about the worst case scenario. Only think about the best case scenario. Walk in there as if you had already won. From the person you greet at the stage door to how you say goodbye. Like all the times, like, I'm here, to enjoy the stay and to give my best. Of course, this has all to do with handling nervosity in a way, but every time I've won an audition, it was probably because I was happy, I was just grateful to be here. I was so grateful to make music with these people, and yeah, joy is infectious. I think that's a superpower. So mistakes, of course, you have to prepare. You have to tell your body, like, I worked for this. I know this. I analyze the score. I memorize the score. I am, all of these, like an athlete. Yeah, these are all fundamental. But then on the day, don't think about, they might not even take anybody today. They might not have an open spot. Maybe they just have to take this audition because they are obliged to do this. Or maybe they already thought about who they are going to hire because they have this favorite person, or all of these things. Or, yeah, I don't really want this job. I'm just taking this because I need the practice. Or if I get tenure here, then I show on my CV that I can make it. I really, really be super intentional and be like, from the moment you wake up, I want this. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to make music today. And I think it's really important to be super positive, because every little negative thought will help your little inside fear, to me. So, yeah.
I call those the squirrels that run around our head, and I need to order myself a stuffed squirrel that when I'm doing my coaching and audition accelerator and I hear a limiting assumption or something, I can wiggle the squirrel on the screen and say, your squirrels are acting up. Great, that's beautiful. You work with international orchestras in multiple languages constantly. Mm-hmm. How does that shape rehearsals, and what do you think the advantages of your being as a conductor, being able to speak Spanish, for example?
I've seen great conductors rehearse in a language that was not their native language. I think they used very few words to express what they wanted. They used a very strong metaphor, and made people feel something. So, sometimes even when I rehearse in Germany, sometimes a word comes into my mind or a metaphor that works very well in English or in Spanish, and then I will just say it, or in Italian now. And so language again is a tool to connect with people. so I don't think much about it. Yeah.
That also ties back to our question about who is our community in terms of Los Angeles, for example. Southern California is a great language to speak Spanish, and being able to feel like those students at Yola are connected, or any, but not just Yola students, but anybody who comes to a concert, that you can actually address them in their native tongue is, I think, pretty powerful.
So important. Absolutely. And I think what interests me more than about vocabulary beyond vocabulary is when I think about mentality. Yeah, I have to say, every time I go to Colombia or I go to South America or I go and I communicate with South American people, most of the time there's so much warmth, and there's a immediate like hola, ¿cómo estás? And mi querida, mi corazón, mi linda. So I think there's a lot of softness, a lot of warmth, and it is not always immediately a marriage proposal. It's just the way they communicate. And in Italy, it's pretty similar. I think if I think about German culture, German mentality, American culture, it's a little bit different, and there are just things that okay, sometimes language can be very direct, sometimes it can be harsh, but how do I take the things that I loved so much from a certain environment and translate it into another? When I'm in Germany, how can I still make my South American influence come through? Yeah, how can I make this come through in how I treat my singers, how I treat my musicians? Can I be honest without being harming? Can I? Because I think there's a certain tendency in Germany to always be like, there's no point in losing time in not being honest, or like directness is just better be direct, and I don't always agree with this. I think, and this is something that I feel it in America. So in my experience, this has been or is done very well. There's a politeness and there's a softness, and you still understand, how someone feels. So yeah.
You can be honest. You can be honest and still kind.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, Esa-Pekka, one of my favorite characteristics of his is he can do something that would have eviscerated someone else, but with such a smile. Like one of my favorite quotes from him, I'll do my best EP, is violins, the accidentals are good for the entire bar, as in music, and it was like hilarious. And basically he's telling all of us like, hey, could you play the right notes, please?
Yeah, exactly. That's so genius. I mean,
he has so many things like that. So speaking of honesty, let's take the direction a little bit into a difficult topic, but I just want to touch on it briefly. You're 29 and already leading some of the most major orchestras in the world, and you're one of very few women conductors at this level. I'm curious, the classical music industry is woefully behind in equality, practically in the Stone Age, when it comes to women on the podium. How have you navigated that? Do you have thoughts about that you'd like to share?
Of course. And I especially, I think about your young listeners in this podcast, and I know that you have a lot of young followers, and I think I want to send one very important message. You're not defined by your gender. You're defined by the kindness in your soul and by the conviction of your heart, and for the burning fire inside of you. And let that be your guiding light. Because every stone that comes in your way is just a test to overcome it. And I think sometimes the world seems like a dark place, and believing that there's always a light, it can be your neighbor, can be your parents, your brothers, your sisters, can be your high school teacher, can be a friend that gives you a little compliment. There's so much value to each and every one of us, and kind of like amplifying the positive voice inside of us that says, you can do this. You're maybe born to do this, or you're allowed to do this. You're good enough to do this. And that sometimes I mean, when I say that with 15, I touched the sound the first time with my hands. I never thought that my life would bring me there. My parents never thought about this. There was someone who saw something in me, but I could have said many times throughout the last almost 15 years now, hmm, maybe my ear is not good enough, or my brain is not good enough, my body is not good enough. My parents are not from this industry. My This little challenge here, or this teacher doesn't believe in me. I don't look like my colleagues. Yeah, I have long hair. I have a different body. There for sure there are moments where you think, "Do I fit in? Can I do this? Am I strong enough? Am I good enough?" But I know inside of you, this wish was planted inside of you for a reason. Trusting this reason and amplifying all the positive voices. Sometimes like, okay, I just turn up the volume on this voice right now. I will not let this negative voice consume me. And learn to live with the scars that you inevitably collect along the way. Everybody has had someone who did not believe in you. I don't know anybody who hasn't at some point. Even if navigating this, someone after the concert will come to you and be like, "This was amazing," and some other times people will maybe not, and maybe they didn't feel it, they didn't connect it, or they felt it but they didn't have time to come to you. So not to think about this, but to think, okay, I feel a calling, I feel a mission, and I'm serving this mission. So maybe this helps to say that all the young women, but also men, like, look beyond gender, look beyond your shape, whatever this is. Look inside. Look inside and look at the fire, the conviction, and connect with that.
Beautiful.
I mean, I can go deeper if you want, but otherwise,
That was a stunning answer, and I will listen back to that many, many times to make sure it seals into my DNA. I love it. You're not defined by your gender. That's a big message, and it's a tough one because there's much energy bending against that message, especially right now. So I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that.
This is just the case. So it's like a case. Yeah, the body.
Right.
It's just an easy way for us to. Again, it's like an easy way for us to make something. I have to think of Interstellar right now. Give me a second. Do you know the scene where they think about different dimensions?
Yes.
And and that there are dimensions that we cannot put into words, right? And we just lack the way of saying something, or we still don't see it. It's beyond our comprehension, and I think everything that is the soul, or the personality, all of these things. I mean, it's hard to describe these things, and we're still categorizing. We're still saying, "Oh, this is spiritual. This is esoteric." In a way, it's so much easier to define someone by being female or male, or even non-binary. It's just you're human. Your nature, your energy. And my energy can be sometimes female, it can be male, it can be neutral. Even this water bottle has an energy. So I think understanding the energy and the strength, right? Like I deeply believe that only because I have a female body, it does not limit me to giving birth to sound. On the contrary, I can create something inside my heart that is so powerful, right? And that connects, and offering that, that's what I have to offer. If people can connect with that, that's great. If they cannot, then I go to another group. It's the same. Like, go to the places, where you feel seen and where you feel heard and where you feel loved, and there will be a place for you. Yeah.
Well, we're always happy to see you in Los Angeles, and I'm looking forward to your weeks coming up. I have one last question, and I'm already taking so much of your time.
Did we talk about this? I don't.
Yeah, the question, that's exactly, I wanted to ask you. You're really into tech supported music education in real time, and orchestras can't keep doing the same thing we've been doing for 300 years. So, what does that look like? How do you actually integrate multimedia or technology into this connectivity through orchestral music that we've been talking about? And I know there are a million ways that could be done, but do you have some thoughts or some homework assignments for us that we need to start working on?
Yeah, well, technology should never replace emotional experience. It should sharpen it, and I think it should help us feel it even more intensively. So this is not about screens. This is about perception. And what I'm especially interested in is, how do we help people hear things that we hear? For example, when we see the score, or when we know how to play an instrument. And I think that the technology can, again, be like glasses for the ear, and everything that helps us listen more actively and be part of that journey, be part of that story. I say, like a bird that flies through the piece. That interests me. I think Wagner, if Wagner was alive, he would probably now be at the MIT Media Lab and try things out, or or Walt Disney, everything that he created, that's fascinates me. And technology, I talked to Esa Pekka about this actually last week also, because he's also a big supporter, and I love that. And we thought, like, okay, there are different ways of using technology for distribution of music in Spotify and so on, YouTube, also in reinterpreting. If you think, okay, let's add some visualization, or let's add some vibration, or let's add some scent. And then the third pillar would be, how can we create new things through technology that spark a new way of creativity, and thinking about art, and not being afraid of it, because it will now be part of our daily life. And so I'm trying to learn as much as I can right now here with the MIT Media Lab. I go there almost every week, and I see what the people are working on, and how can we maybe measure audience perception. Will there be wristbands that measure something? Will there be a button in the future where you can, like, send a like when you like something during during the music? I really like to think about maybe also moving chairs, in the future, like where you feel harmony shifts, where you feel when some cadence happens from 5 to 1, like, is there like a gravity pulling you downwards? So all of these different harmonic landscapes that we pass through in a symphony. This is incredibly exciting to me. And how to get back home, actually. Why do we say a piece is written in C major or in A major, Beethoven 7? Why this anchor, right? Like, why does the composer always go back to A major? Why is this the tonal center? Why did we start talking in these terms? These little Lego stones and this grammatical, I think, vocabulary. So if in my lifetime I can contribute in building some kind of Disney world for classical music, I would be overjoyed. And see where this leads us. But I definitely want to be an advocate for nurturing talent in music, arts, and technology, and see where this journey leads us. all in order to help listening become a more active process and making people feel invited and involved.
I will definitely buy a yearly pass to the Walt Disney World. So let's make it happen. Make sure there's good coffee and good rides there. We're down. It's going to happen.
Yeah, right. To Beethoven 5, like, okay. Just
Fun, so fun.
Yeah.
So I have the last question. This is sort of the question I ask everyone, and you can think about it if you want, but here's the question. I always say it's time to face the music in terms of getting honest about what you want, what you don't want, what you're good at, what you need to let go of. So what's the hard truth, the honesty pill that the classical music world needs to hear right now?
Wow. Hard truth. Again, I think I don't want to say any hard truth. It was tying back to, I would say, my dears, my friends. Oh, there's no hard truth. There's just like, I think everybody who works in classical music normally is a big believer in the power of music. And almost everybody I know, every arts institution, they are people with so much conviction and so much heart. To be quite honest, I think we are fighting for the good things. And my hard truth would be, don't give up. Keep fighting for music, for the sake of music, for inviting more people into our audience hall, making people feel invited, thanking all the trustees who feel that music is a way to help society and investing their money in this, because without them, art institutions here cannot, continue to do the work that they do. And in order to give everybody access, you need sponsoring. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's not, same with church. It's also there's, yeah. But I mean, if music can be, if a music hall can be like a church where everybody finds solace, and or like a synagogue, or that's yeah. But my message would just be like, keep fighting for music.
I think that if there's one thing we could all use a little bit more right now is solace and safety and community. So all those things are wonderful.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
no, I want to say that also, thank you for what you are doing, because look, what you are doing really is empowering the next generation to believe in their dreams, believe in themselves, and fight for music. You are actively helping the next generation to find their place.
I appreciate
And
that.
that's beautiful. No, thank you so much for doing that, and also helping me, because if I may say so, for all the young listeners, you came up to me after my first rehearsal with the LA Phil, and you said words to me that I still remember. And they gave me so much encouragement to work hard and to believe that I could do this. Changed a lot. So thank you so much.
That's beautiful. Well, I don't remember what I said, but it probably had something to do with, wow, you have the it thing. You have the it factor. Because I'll tell you right now, we get a lot of great conductors, and they're all wonderful. And some of them just create this synergy that it makes me remember why I go to work. So thank you, Anna Handler. And also thank you for being here on this little project podcast I have. If you want to find out more about Anna Handler's concert schedule, you can go to her website at annahandler.com and follow her all around the world, because she's never in one place for very long, sharing that orchestra joy everywhere. And also just reminding you, if you're not already a part of the Honesty Pill Accelerator community, what are you waiting for? It's launching right now. Head over to honestypill.com, check out HPAC, get some support, find out about Audition Accelerator. All right, everybody, that's it from me. And in case you need a reminder, it's time to face the music. Happy practicing. I'll see you next time.
Happy practicing.